Hello, welcome back. So in previous session we have seen how the network software can be designed using reference models, right? We had two different reference models. Those were OSI reference model proposed by ISO, then we had TCP/IP reference model, and also we have seen how the complexity can be solved using layered architecture. What are different layers present in both reference model? That also we have seen, right? Now in this session we will focus on what functions are performed by each layer of OSI reference model. So the first three layers we will see in this lecture and the remaining we will see in the next lecture. So we are focusing on what functions are done by each layer, not about the implementation. Okay, so in case of OSI reference model, the definition of reference model gives only about the functions performed by each layer, not about the implementation. But the implementation of each layer is published as a separate standard. So we will see those things later. Okay, so I think you remember the different layers in OSI reference model. We had 7 different layers, right? Physical, data link, network, transport, session, presentation, and application were the layers present in OSI reference model. And when we arrange these layers in a host machine, in a network software point of view, this is how the communication is performed between two different machines, right? So we had the sender machine here, all the 7 layers present in sender and all the 7 layers present in receiver also. In between we have a set of routers through which we have to pass the data, right? And these routers contains the first 3 layers of this network software. Okay, so physical, data link and network layers are present in router, and corresponding layers of the end machine, those are the sender machine and receiver machine, communicate using a set of protocols. So in case of application layer, we can call those protocols as application protocols. Like corresponding to each layer, there is a set of protocols. And each layer manages the data as a specific unit, right? In case of physical layer, it reads raw bits of information. It sees only zeros and ones, nothing else. And in case of data link layer, we will group these bits into frame. Then in network, we have packets like that. We have data units in each layer. All those things we will see in detail later. Okay, so this is how the layered architecture is there in case of OSI reference model. Now, so this is how based on the devices. Okay, end system we had all the 7 layers. Intermediate nodes, those are routers, we have 3 layers. Okay. Now, before moving to different layers and its functions, let us see how a machine is going to be identified within a network. So each and every machine will be identified using 2 different addresses. First one is its physical address and second one is logical address. Okay, physical address, another name is MAC address, media access control address, which is imprinted on its network interface card. You can see it using some commands. Just for example, in case of Windows, we can use ipconfig, right? Like that, depending on the OS, you can use appropriate command to find the MAC address of a machine, and it's claimed to be unique. For every machine in this world, the corresponding MAC ID will be unique. There are cases for duplicate MAC ID because of manufacturer's fault. Anyway, we are assuming that each and every machine having MAC ID is unique. Okay, and example for a MAC ID is like this. It will be a 12-digit hexadecimal number in which each pair will be separated using columns. Okay, so this is one method of identification of a machine, and the second one is logical address. So in case of internet, IP address is an example for logical address. Every machine will be assigned a logical address, IP address will be given, and depending on the network in which our machine currently belongs, the IP address changes, right? And in IP version 4, we are using a 4 decimal digits, decimal numbers separated using dots to represent the IP address. Okay, so using these 2 addresses we can identify a machine. And other than these 2, we have a third address, port address. Okay, so why we need a third address? Definitely. So if you think about the communication between 2 machines, It's actually not between two systems but between two different processes, right? Just for example, suppose we are searching for something in the internet, we are using a browser to search something, right? And the result should be came back to the appropriate browser itself, right? Definitely. So that is the communication is between two different processes, not between two machines. Okay. So there should be some mechanism to identify each and every processes in a machine. For that we are using the port address. Okay. So you can see here we are performing a HTTP request. Okay. And that request is identified the source port number 49152. And in the server corresponding to this will have a particular service provided by some processes, and here the corresponding service port number is 80. HTTP, for HTTP request we have the corresponding port number which is already reserved, that is port number 80. Okay, so corresponding to each request, here the client 2 is issuing some SMTP mail request. The corresponding port number is 51152, that managed by the corresponding well-known port number 25, SMTP in the server. Like that, every communication is between a pair of processes, and these processes are identified using port number. Another name for this port address is service point address. Okay, or service access point also, like that we will call. So usually this port number will be a 6-digit number, and the initial numbers like 0 to 124 are reserved for well-known services. So here you can see that port number 80 is reserved for HTTP, like that port number 20 is reserved for FTP, 21 also is for FTP, 23 for Telnet, like that a set of initial numbers are reserved for well-known services, and the remaining the numbers from 1024 to other numbers will be assigned, can be assigned for user processes. Okay, so those port numbers are used for identifying the corresponding process to which the communication happens. Now you may think that we have a unique ID for every machine, that is MAC ID. Then why we need one more address, that is IP address, right? We can just compare this with our example, like the Aadhaar number for our case. So the MAC ID is just like our Aadhaar number, can be used to identify a person uniquely, right? So a machine can be uniquely identified by using this MAC ID. But can we use our Aadhaar number to locate us currently? No, right? It's very difficult, right? Same thing happens in the case of machine also. We cannot locate a machine using this MAC address, right? So if you want to locate or if you want to route a packet, route a data to a particular machine, we have to find the location. Then only we can forward the corresponding data to the appropriate network in which that machine belongs. To identify and route a data packet properly to the destination machine, we need the IP address or logical address. So it's just like our present residential address. Okay. So definitely when we change our residence, the corresponding residential address also will change, right? Like that, when we change the network into which our machine works, the IP address also will change. But using this IP address, we can easily locate the machine and route the packet appropriately. That is why we are using two different addresses for the same machine. Okay. So now let us discuss about different functions of each layer. Okay. So first one is physical layer, the lowermost layer in our OSI reference model. And as you know, the physical layer receives its data from the data link layer. The frames are formed by the data link layer. It is passed on to physical layer. Physical layer is actually the lowermost layer which connects thus our machine with the medium, right? So the major concern of the physical layer is how to transmit this data, thus zeros and ones, into this medium, right? and at the receiver side the reverse back, how to receive some data from the medium and how to give that into data link layer. That is a major concern of physical layer. So the physical layer mainly concerned with the type of physical medium, how this data can be transmitted. That's the major concern here. Okay, so the physical layer coordinates the functions required to carry a bit stream over a physical medium. So you cannot directly transmit ones and zeros as such over the medium, right? It's a wire or some communication media is there. Appropriate signals should be generated for each type of media, right? Just for example, if we are using a cable, in that case we have to use or we have to convert this zeros and ones into electrical signals, and we have to decide on what voltage should be used to represent a 1 and what should be used to represent a 0. Like that, a physical layer should convert this zeros and ones into appropriate signal. And if you are using a fiber optic cable, appropriately that signals should be light signals should be generated for each zeros and ones, right? Or it's a wireless media, we have to generate some radio waves like that. So depending on the media, appropriate signals should be generated and that should be transmitted over the media. That is the functionality of physical layer. Apart from this signal generation, a lot of other functions are also there, like what type of medium. Yeah, that definitely, that depending on that appropriate signals should be generated. And second one is how the bits should be represented. Just for example, if it is electrical voltage, how much voltage should be there to represent 0, how much should be there to represent a 1, like that. That should be concerned. Then the data rate per second, how much bits can be transmitted depending on the speed of the media and depending on the receiver speed, like that. How much data or what is the rate of data that can be transmitted. That's also concerned by the physical layer. Then synchronization of bits, right? Whenever we send a bit, one bit at the center, it should be received as a 1 at the receiver, right? That should be a coordination or synchronization of clocks between sender and receiver. That should be done. How this synchronization can be done, that's also concerned by this physical layer. Then line configuration. So we know that different types of configurations are there, like point-to-point configuration is there, or multi-point configuration is there, right? So if it is a point-to-point configuration between sender and receiver, there is no such complexity, right? Directly we can transfer the data, transmit the data over the medium. But if it is a multi-point configuration, we have to wait for our chance, because multiple machines are shared among this same media, right? So that is also a major concern of physical layer. What type of configurations are used, whether it is point to point or multi-point. According to that, it should use the service, right? And next, physical topology. What topology this system is connected, whether it is mesh, ring, like that. That also depends, right? The network transmission definitely depends on the topology also. Based on that only the decision can be taken to access the media and send the data, corresponding data. So all these things. Then transmission mode also is very important. What type of mode is used by this media, whether it is a simplex mode, always from sender to receiver, or whether it is half duplex. Okay, at the time only one, but both sender and receiver can use the same media. Or it is a full duplex mode, that simultaneously both sender and receivers can use the same media for transmission. So all these type of physical characteristics of the media and all is concerned with the physical layer. So usually this physical layer functions are implemented as a combination of network software and hardware, because it's a lowermost layer. Okay, so this is about physical layer. Now coming to the second layer, that is data link layer. So from the name itself, we can guess that it treats the message as data rather than individual bits. So this is the layer which forms some meaningful units for data. And so if you think about the position of data link layer in our network software, this is how it is organized, right? So it receives the data from the network layer in case of sender machine. This is the data part. Then it will attach a header part and trailer part to form a frame. Okay, and this frame will be passed on to the physical layer. And at the receiver side, what happens? It receives the data stream of bits from the physical layer, right? And it will cut out the header part and trailer part from this stream of bits, and the data part will be forwarded back to network layer of the receiver machine. And so we can say that this is the first layer which handle the data as a meaningful unit. In case of physical layer, it treats the entire data as a stream of bits alone, right? And data link layer creates meaningful frames from this stream of bits. Okay, and data link layer is responsible for hop-to-hop delivery. That is just neighboring nodes how the data can be transferred along. Okay, that's all about the concern of data link layer. It never bothered about the source machine to destination machine delivery. Whatever it receives in the current node, it will just forward to the next node. Okay, how the communication can be done successfully to the next node. That's all about the concern of data link layer. But it is very much concerned about this hop-to-hop delivery. That is how this data can be made error-free transmission. Like that, lot of things are done by the data link layer. We can see each one. So the data link layer transforms the physical layer to a reliable link. Physical layer definitely is dealing with the communication media. Lot many problems and issues can be there in that physical medium, right? Can be broken, signals can be lost. Lot of issues are there. Apart from all these difficulties, data link layer will make this transmission media an error-free one. Using its own technique, it will make the communication successful. Okay, so it makes the physical layer appear error-free to the upper layer, network layer. Okay. So the data link layer provides hop-to-hop delivery. You can see an example for that. Actually, we have the communication. Suppose we have the communication between this machine A to machine D. Okay, so actual communication is from A to D, and this data link layer is actually concerned. Suppose this data link layer here in this machine A, it's concerned about how the data can be successfully transmitted to B. Like that, the data link here will concern about how this communication can be done among B to C. Like that, C to D, neither data link layer will be concerned about. Okay, never bothered about A to D. Okay, as a single unit. This is the hop-to-hop delivery. Apart from this reliable hop-to-hop delivery of messages, this data link layer also perform other functionalities like framing. So just for example, if you think about the sender side, sending machine, this data link layer receives a packet from the network layer, right? Then it will add a header and trailer part to this packet to form a frame, right? So an example for some information added as a trailer or header is checksum value. So the data link layer will treat the entire data unit received from the network as a data part, and it will compute the checksum for this. Okay, and that will be added as a trailer information. Like that, lot of other informations also will be added that we can see later. Okay, so what is the purpose of this checksum? At the receiver side, the receiver data link layer can compare the checksum already added in the trailer part with the newly computed checksum for the received data packet. Okay, the data part alone will be taken and the checksum will be recomputed, and this value will be compared with the already packed trailer part checksum value. And if they match, the meaning is that there is no error in the data received, right? Otherwise, there is a mismatch in the computed one and attached one. That means there is some error happened. So some mechanism will be done to correct the errors. So like that, lot of meaningful information are added as a trailer or header part for the packet received from the network layer, that is framing. And the next functionality is physical addressing. You know, physical address is the MAC address, right? So the data link layer will add with this packet the MAC address of both the source and destination. The source MAC address is already known, no problem. It can be added with the corresponding frame, right? Then what about the destination's MAC address? It may not be known. So different protocols are there to get the MAC address of a machine given its IP address. So what we are doing is a protocol like address resolution protocol will be used to get the MAC address of the destination. Okay, we can see how it works actually later. And if the destination machine is in the same network as that of the sender, it can get the MAC address of the receiver using this address resolution protocol, and it can be framed. And if the destination is in some other network, we won't get the corresponding MAC address. So what the data link layer will do is, it will add the MAC address of the router which connects the destination machine to this network. That router's MAC ID will be added as the MAC ID of the destination. Like that, physical addressing will be done by the data link layer. Now the next functionality is flow control. So if the sender and the receiver, that is in the case of hop-to-hop delivery, the node at one end and the node at the other end is of different speeds. So in that case, if the rate at which the data are absorbed by the receiver is less than the rate at which data are produced in the sender, there's a chance that some of the data packets may be lost because of insufficient buffer capacity of the receiver or something like that. In such case, that should be addressed by this data link layer, and some flow control mechanism will be imposed. Okay, so the speed difference between the sender and the receiver will be handled by using some flow control mechanism. And next is error control. So the data link layer adds reliability to the physical layer by adding mechanisms to detect and retransmit damaged or lost frames. Okay, so individual bits corruptions will be handled using some checksum and all, and the data packet itself may be lost or damaged. In that case also some error control mechanism are there to manage all these things. And it also deals with duplicate frame. The same frame may be received more than once. That also will be managed. So all this corresponding information will be added to the header and trailer part of the frame, and that can be used at the receiver to manage all these types of problems. And the last functionality is access control. As you know, in the case of a network, the same media may be shared by multiple devices, right? In that case, that is multiple access channels are there. In that case, there should be some mechanism by which we can decide which node can use this channel now. Otherwise, some collisions will be there. That is, multiple nodes try to send data at the same time over the shared medium. Collisions can be there, definitely. So such collisions should be avoided or handled. Some media access control mechanism should be there. That also done by this data link layer using some protocols like Aloha, like that. That also we can see later. So these are the different functionalities performed by data link layer. I think the next layer, that is network layer, we can see in the next session. Thank you.